Hello there. I want to talk a bit about the rods and the reels that I use for bank fishing. This channel is a bank fishing channel. The fishing that you see on this channel will mostly be bank fishing. I very seldom have been in a boat. I probably could count the number of times that I've been in a boat on the fingers of both hands and have fingers left over. I know that there are a lot of people, they're in situations where bank fishing is pretty much their only option. And so I wanted to do a video on how I approach bank fishing, and this will probably be a series of videos, like a mini-series kind of deal. But we're going to look at rods and reels today, because I wanted to do this because I've done like a search here on YouTube, and there are several tutorials, or whatever it is you want to call them, about bank fishing and about bank fishing gear and things like that. And the problem I find with them is, although you can find some from guys that are actual bank fishermen, what you're going to see overall more than anything else is bass fishermen that have a $60,000 bass boat and spend 95% of their time fishing from that bass boat, deciding they're going to do a bank fishing video, and you see stuff like, you know, the 5 rods you need for bank fishing and all of this stuff. Okay, no. As a bank fisherman, you have to try to stay as light as you possibly can. Rods, the number of rods you carry, the amount of tackle you carry, and all of that, because a true bank fisherman, listen, if you're one of these guys that is a bass fisherman and he fishes on that big boat most of the time, but you know, every now and then he'll take his truck and load it up with 6 rods and reels and, you know, half his bass box full of lures, and drive his truck up a hill, you know, so that he can walk downhill to this really big pond that has big open banks that he doesn't have to worry about getting hung up in when he tries to cast and stuff like that. Okay, you can do that. But a true bank fisherman is one that fishes the bank all the time, and he's not got a lot of choice about whether or not he has room to cast, about how easy it is to get to the water. It's somebody that has to, he covers water with his feet as much as with his rods and his reels. And the only way he can move to different water is to walk and carry his gear. Okay, so a bank fisherman needs to be light on his or her feet. Okay, so what I have here is I have the 3 rods that I think are most useful for bank fishing. But what I would say first is, if you look at a lot of videos, fishing videos today, particularly bass fishing, but any kind of fishing nowadays, the manufacturers will sell you a rod for every kind of lure that you've got in your box. You need this rod for crankbaits, and you need this rod for worm fishing, and you need this rod over here to throw spinner baits, and you need this rod over here to throw this lure, and this rod over there to throw that lure. And no, you don't. The fishing world is very, very compartmentalized. And it was when I was younger and fishing a lot. That was a part of it, that certain of your rigs and stuff might be specialized for certain types of things. But it's gone completely out of control nowadays. You really don't need more than, if you're bass fishing, you really don't need more than a couple of different rods. And they will cover pretty much anything that you want to do. What I have here is I have A couple of rods that I would carry with me if I was just doing general fishing and bass fishing, things of that nature. And then I have an ultralight setup for when I want to concentrate on that. And that's it. 3 rods. And I would carry 1 rod when I did ultralight fishing, or if I wanted to do like catch as catch can, whatever I could catch. You know, I might find that the ultralight rod is a little bit small for what is biting, so I might carry my main fishing rod with me along with the ultralight rod and reel so that I have options. But all of my gear is vintage. Well, vintage is it's 30, 35 years old. Everything that you see on this table, on this bench, was bought in the 90s, the early to mid 90s, 1990s, okay? I don't have any new gear. And most of what you see on this bench is budget gear from that time. So, this is not a buy budget reels video. It is a video that says, look, what you can afford will catch fish. If all you can afford is a cane pole, you can catch fish with it, okay? Budget gear back in the 90s, I used and caught all kinds of fish and never had a single bit an issue with it. I never felt I missed fish because my rod wasn't expensive enough to be sensitive enough. You know, I never felt like any of my reels were underpowered, nor anything like that. And I had a slamming good time. But the more refined your gear is, I would never tell somebody if you've got the money to buy a really nice rod or a really nice reel or whatnot, don't buy that, buy this cheaper option. As a woodworker, a hand tool woodworker, as a musician, I do recognize that the higher the quality of whatever gear or tool it is that you are using is, the easier things are going to be for you. But there's a law of diminishing returns that says that up to a certain price point, you're going to get what you pay for, and then when you pay more, you're going to get tiny, tiny increments in improvement that you may or may not actually notice. So all of these are old. I don't have a problem fishing them. I've fished them for a long time. I'm going to keep fishing them. Okay, so I want to look at the ultralight rod and the ultralight reel. I have here a Shakespeare Ranger. I don't know if you could see that or not, but the Shakespeare Ranger poles were a budget Shakespeare line. They were like probably like a mid-grade Shakespeare line back in the 90s. This is a 5-foot ultralight rod. It's a 2-piece rod. It's like a fast action, or maybe moderate fast action chip. And what I have on it, I don't have a 500 series ultralight reel on this rod. The reason that I don't, I have a quantum ultralight rod, or reel rather, that I bought originally with this rod. But I fished the Shenandoah River, and I've said before that the Shenandoah River is a giant snag hole. It just is. There's a lot of laydowns, there's a lot of rock, there's a lot of grass and moss and weed and all of that underneath the surface of the water. There's all kinds of ways in which you'll get snagged and hung up. And I use 4-pound to 6-pound test on an ultralight rig. So if I use like a 500 series, a true ultralight reel, what'll happen is in an hour or two, depending on how bad things are, I get snagged up enough. I won't have enough line to continue fishing. And when you're trying to shoot fishing videos as well, that's not enough time. So I don't use the really, really micro small reels. What I have on this reel is a Silstar, an old Silstar Edge 3500. Now this is not or Edge 35. This is not a 3500 series reel. It's not a 3500 size reel. Silstars, and I mean old Silstar, because that's what this is. The Silstar that's out now was bought by a Chinese conglomerate or a Chinese company, and I have contacted them about this reel. They have no records of any of that because they are not the Silstar that I grew up with. They sell Chinese-made goods. I'm not saying the quality's bad or anything like that. They're just not the same company. And their reels are sized standard like everybody else's. But this is like a 1500 series reel. I don't know what the 35 means or anything like that, but it does not mean 3500 series reel. So this is a 1500 series thereabout size reel. Now this is not the reel that I would normally have on this rod, but when I broke my hand, I fell on that reel and broke the handle on that reel. And it's one of those types of handles where you don't remove this cap on the back and pull the handle through, okay? You actually hold the bail steel and screw the handle on or off. And I cannot find any kind of replacement handle for that kind of reel. They all want the pass-through. They all sell the pass-through handles. And you probably wouldn't, because that's an old Olympic ES1. And the best chance I would have of getting a handle for that reel is to just buy another one of those reels on eBay for 15 or 20 bucks. And to me, it's not worth it to worry about it and pay shipping for it and stuff like that when I have this reel sitting around. So it's about a 1500 series reel on an ultralight rod, and I usually pair it with 4-pound or 6-pound test. Right now it would be 4-pound. I tend to use the Vicious copolymer line that is high vis, because I'm older, I can't see as well, and the high vis line is easier to tie. So but this is what I would carry when I was ultralight fishing. It's all that I need. The rod is a 5-foot length, and to be honest with you, I would not want anything shorter than 5 foot, and I do not think that I would want anything longer than 5 foot. To me, this 5 foot is pretty much perfect for ultralight fishing. So that's my ultralight rod. The main rod that I use and the main reel that I use for most fishing that's not ultralight fishing, bass fishing, catfish, all of that kind of stuff. Well, not catfish. I have another rod that doubles as a catfish rod. But it would be this. This is also an old Shakespeare Ranger rod. And it has, I think that's pretty much a moderate fast tip. And a medium power. and it's a 6-foot long rod. Keep in mind you're bank fishing. And if you're bank fishing the banks like I bank fish, there's all kind of trees and brush and overgrown stuff all around you, and you're going to want casting room without the tip of that rod getting hung up in everything around you. So I find 6 foot to be ideal. And I have another one of these that I can exchange the reel on the next rod that we're going to talk about for when I'm bank fishing the river and I know that I'm going to have tight quarters, and it's a 6-foot rod. So, but anyway, this is a medium action or a medium power, moderate fast tip. I would rather have a fast tip than moderate fast, but this works for equally well for things like crankbaits where you want a little more whippy tip, and for regular fishing other types of baits as well. It's a good all-around choice tip-wise to throw a lot of different kinds of bait. It will throw a little bit smaller bait because you've got, and a little bit lighter bait because you got more of a whip action with the tip without it being too whippy. And this is what I will use. I have it paired with a Abu Garcia MX 130R, and I think this is about I think this is a cardinal reel, and it is it's about a it's 2000 series size. I don't know, like I say, what the 130 is, but it's not a 1000 series reel, and it's not there ain't anything called a 1300. So it's definitely not a 3. I would say that's around a 2000. The line capacity is like 8 to 12 pounds. So I would say that's about a 2000 series size reel. One of the things about my reels, this reel and the next reel that I'm going to talk about are the best 2 reels that I own. And back in the 90s when I bought them, I think I paid about $32 for each one of these reels. Okay, and I did a quick Google search or whatever you want to call it to try to compare $30 in 1990 with what it would be the equivalent of, or what the equivalent of $30 in 1990 would be in 2023 money. In other words, if I were going to buy something comparable to what cost $30 in 1990, how much would I have to spend? And I picked the first calculation that came up, and it was $70. Now, I'm not saying that these are $70 quality reels today. Okay, I'm sure it doesn't work that way, but I've serviced all of these reels. I've serviced, and this is a good quality reel, and so is everything else on this table. But this reel and rod combo will cast pretty much any lure in your tackle box. It'll fish pretty much any lure in your tackle box. But this is a good all-purpose reel. The only change that I might make to this reel is instead of a moderate fast tip, I might want a fast tip. But you'll sacrifice a little bit of casting ability with just a plain fast tip versus the moderate fast. Okay. But in the end, there's probably not going to be very much of a difference in the two. So that would be my recommendation for a main rod for all types of fishing. You're not considering, you know, a specialized ultralight rod or a specialized rod for heavier applications. But for your main freshwater creeks and streams and rivers and lakes and ponds and stuff like that, a 2000 size reel and a 6-foot medium action or medium power, moderate fast action rod will do it all. And you'll be happy with that. And I could take this rod and my tackle box and fish any place from the bank that I wanted to, for almost anything that I wanted to fish for, with no problems with this rod. But there is an exception, and we're going to talk about that now. The third rod that I recommend that you own. This is, and remember, I'm not saying buy these exact rods and reels. These are old vintage, they're older rods. Some of them won't be available now. The Ranger rods don't exist anymore. I'm just showing you type. Okay? I'm not saying this brand of reel, this brand of rod, that kind of deal. But this is an older Shakespeare Ugly Stik. This is not the GX2 or Gen X2 or whatever it is they're selling now. Okay? This is a 1990s Ugly Stik. It's a 7-foot medium action, medium power, fast action tip. And honestly, this rod I bought and used extensively, specifically as a catfish rod. I have a Daiwa PS 2005 reel on it. It's like a 2500 size spinning reel. This reel happens to be suitable for fresh and salt water. It's the best reel that I own, and I absolutely love this reel. Right now I have 15-pound test line on this reel, but I will be changing to 30-pound braid with a 10-pound copolymer leader. Okay, a 2-foot 10-pound test copolymer leader. And this is for heavy fishing. This is for fishing for catfish, big bass. When I know there's big bass around, although this rod will handle big bass fine. But bass that are hidden in deep cover, heavy grass, a lot of wood, a lot of laydowns and stuff like that, where I have to toss a heavy weighted, 1/2 ounce or better, Texas rig into those waters, into that snag hole, and pull those big bass out of there and pull them out, because the thing of it is as soon as that fish bites and he or she realizes that they're hooked on something, what they're going to do is they're going to turn their nose right back into that laydown or that heavy cover, and they're going to shoot back in there to try to tear themselves off of whatever it is they're hung up on. And you have to have enough power in your reel and in your rod. There has to be enough backbone to turn that fish out of that cover so that you can get him on a boat. Most people, or for me, to the shore, most people would recommend a medium heavy action rod. Okay? And in actuality, eventually I hope to be able to get a medium heavy 7-foot or even a 6.5 foot medium heavy fast action rod to pair with this reel for those circumstances. But I know from experience that this will throw the heavy Texas rig stuff and heavy lures, and I can set the hook and catch those bass that are buried up in that heavy cover. This rod has enough backbone, I can pull those suckers out of that and get them to shore and catch them. And so the way that I would use these two rods is, for most fishing I would use this. But in circumstances where I know that I'm probably going to need to fish that type of cover. I'm going to carry both of these rods with me when I bank fish. 2 rods is not too hard to handle. Okay. 3 would be kind of getting up there too ridiculous. You don't want to look like a pack mule. You need to be able to be mobile. 2 rods I could handle. And so that I have my general purpose rod that's pretty much a do anything or do everything sort of jack of all trades, master of none, medium, moderate, fast tip with a 2000 size spinning reel on it. And 10 pound, this is 10 pound trilene. Trilene or strand is what I would use, monofilament line for this. And it's a dual, an all-purpose kind of thing. This, and then this, for those times when I have to fish heavy cover, when I know that I'm going to be needing to, I'm going to be needing something like this. Okay, so those are the 3 rods that I would carry, and I would basically, sometimes what I might do, and I mentioned it before, is I might carry the ultralight rod and the medium moderate action 6-foot all-purpose rod with me. And sometimes I might carry the other combination that I just said, unless I'm going strictly ultralight, and then I would go with the ultralight rod. Now there's one more thing about pairing rods and reels. If you look at how to pair rods and reels together, what they're going to do is they're going to tell you that you should pair a reel that has the same line weight capacity as the rod is designed to throw. The idea is that you're throwing throwing lures on a rod that's set up for the weight of lures that you're going to throw, and is meant to cast the weight of line that your spinning rod is able to handle. But so why do I have like a 1500 size reel on an ultralight rod? Because I'm looking for a different kind of balance. I'm looking for that. This one's slightly tip heavy still, but you get the picture. Why? Because if you fish a lot for a long time, the rig might be heavier than using an ultralight reel on this rod, but it's balanced in such a way that I don't feel that way. Okay, because the reel is really well balanced, and so I don't have a really tip heavy rod pushing my wrist this way the whole time that I'm fishing. It's got more of a balance to it, and I can hold it and fish with it all day if I want to, and it won't wear me out nearly as much as a tip heavy unbalanced rod and reel combination would. So that's why I do it, that and the line capacity. I don't care whether my reel holds the same size line as this rod was meant to cast. This reel is like 6 pound, to 10 pounds. It's about a 2000 series reel. Okay? I throw 4 pound and 6 pound on it all the time. Why? Because it doesn't blooming matter. This will cast 4 pound line just fine. The spool is big enough and long enough that it'll cast it just fine, and this rod's designed to cast those lines. So I'm good. Okay? But I have balance in my gear. So that's what I carry, why I carry it, my recommendations for a bank fisherman. Keep it light, keep it simple. You can't carry 5 different rods and 40-pound tackle with you if you're going to fish your banks. You got to pare down, and you'll be much happier. Bless you. I'll talk to you later.